Hello, teachers, librarians, parents, and students. Today it is going to be Chapter 7 of I Am Drums. So let's jump right into it, see what the aftermath is of Sam's two band friends making her feel not so good about herself. Maybe Scott is right. Maybe Danny and Johnny Parker are right. Maybe everybody is right, except me. I could probably accept that and move on to other things. Normal things. I could try harder in math, try making more friends, maybe even break into my mom's makeup and smear it all over my face like Laura Wilson did when we were in third grade. But it doesn't work that way. Not for me. I want it to, but I can't accept that music is over. I can't settle for applied arts like Scott and Zeke. I don't like anything else. Turning a page in a book sounds like drums. Mr. Warner writing algebraic equations on the board sounds like drums. The sound of our feet slamming against the gym floor when we run laps sounds like drums. When I'm so angry at Scott for hurting my feelings that my head starts to pound, I swear the pounding sounds like drums. Even silence sounds like drums. They play in my head when I lie awake at night and listen to the hum of nothing. Quitting drums is not an option. I have to figure out a way to keep playing, and teaching myself isn't good enough anymore. I need to reach higher. If there won't be any music classes next year, I'll need private lessons. And if I need private lessons, I need money. I can't get money from my parents, or my school, or anyone else. I can only get it myself. I grab a sheet of paper and a pencil and bring it to my drum desk, shoving aside the encyclopedias and the Calvin and Hobbes snare drum. At the top of the paper, I write, "Ways to make money." Almost immediately, I know my title is incomplete. Private lessons are an ongoing expense. If Pete Taylor's lessons are $30 for a half hour, it's a good bet most other teachers willing to have me as a pupil will ask for something similar. That means my goal should be $30 a week, if not more. I look at the words, "ways to make money," and scribble below it in big, bold letters every week. Then I underline it to remind myself how important it is. What are things that need to be done every week? My chores, of course, but I rarely get my allowance since my dad lost his job, and it wasn't much anyway. Even if it was a ton of money, I can't rely on something so inconsistent. So what kind of things do other people need? Neighbors, friends, or relatives? I think back to winter when I spent the day after a big snowstorm shoveling snow. I made about $20 that day. Not quite enough, but a good start. It's been a warm start to spring though, so snow shoveling is out of the question at this point. Brian barges into my room with tape on his face, toilet paper wrapped around his torso, and a baseball glove on one hand, and says, "What are you doing?" I should ask the same, I say. "I'm trying to start the first mummy baseball league." "What are you doing?" "Nothing you need to know about." I sigh and turn my attention back to my sheet of paper. Brian creeps up behind me, boosts himself up so he can be tall enough to look over my shoulder, and says, yet again, "What are you doing?" I cover the title at the top of my paper with my hand. "Why do you keep asking?" "Because you keep not telling." "And I'm not going to, no matter how many times you ask." My brother scratches his head. "What if I start singing Beethoven?" "You don't even know who Beethoven was." "I'll find out who he was and sing his songs at the top of my lungs." "Beethoven is mostly instrumental, and the lyrics he did write weren't even in English. You can't sing his songs." "I'll find a way." He probably will, and it will be horrifying when he does. My brother isn't going anywhere until I talk, so I come up with an idea. "Tell you what, Brian, let's make a deal." He smiles innocently. "I'll tell you what I'm doing if and only if you help me think of a way to do it," I say. Brian nods and gives me a thumbs up. "Yes! Just call me Idea Man." I shake my head and continue. "I need to make some money. $30 a week or more. You have any ideas?" What do you need it for? Not so fast. You need to come up with a good idea first. Brian pouts, but he doesn't push it any further. He sits cross-legged on the floor of my room, puts his head in his hands, and makes a face like a baby trying to concentrate really hard on... well, you know what I mean. Then he stands up quickly and says, I got nothing. What about you? I uncover the sheet of paper with the words, ways to make money, every week at the top. Brian looks at it, makes an ugly face, and points at the center where I wrote, shovel snow, and crossed it out. There's no snow anymore, Brian says. No kidding, I say. That's why it's crossed out. Okay, so what does a snow shoveler do in warm weather? A snow shoveler doesn't do anything. No way! They have to do something. Yeah, they wait for winter. That's all? I shrug. Brian's eyes light up. Lawn mowing! You could mow lawns! I ponder the idea. Brian does have a point. Lawn mowing is a good idea. It's something I could easily do if Dad will let me use his mower. That leads me to my next problem. Okay, I say. Good thinking. Of course, he says. I'm idea man, remember? There's just one more thing you can help with. Brian shakes his head. No way! Pay up first. I'm not telling you everything, I say. I'll show you something that will give you a hint. Then I'll tell you more if you can help me with an idea again. Deal, he says. He tries to get me to pinky promise, but I swat his hand away. I grab my drumsticks out from under my desk and show them to him. He laughs and says, You eat with chopsticks? Of course not, I say. They're drumsticks. He gives me a weird look, like I'm some sort of space alien. You play the drums? I want to scream. Why is it so weird for me to play the drums? Or want to, at least. You've never heard me playing on the encyclopedias? Is that what that was? I thought you were trying to juggle or something. I hate juggling. Juggling hates you too. Maybe it does. Anyway, that's all you get to know until you help me get Dad to let me borrow the lawnmower. Brian's face tightens. His mouth droops into a frown. Dad will never let you. Come on, Brian. Dad won't even let me have an extra glass of juice with dinner. Forget it. Brian tries to leave, but I grab him by the shoulders and anchor him in place. Please, you have to help me think of a way. If you do, I'll tell you everything. Nope, no way. I'm out of here. Brian leaves my room. My anger surges the moment he closes the door, and I throw my drumsticks across the room. They hit the wall with a smack and collapse to the floor, landing in the lap of an old stuffed tiger I've had since I was 4. I can't seem to get rid of him. Quick side note, so far in every manuscript I've written, I have found a way to put a stuffed tiger in it, my little nod to Calvin and Hobbes. Brian's right. Dad will never let me borrow the lawnmower. I can imagine a million ways the conversation will end, and none of them will be in my favor. But I have to try. It's the only way. During breakfast a few mornings later, I finally gathered the courage to ask about the lawnmower. I've practiced reciting all sorts of reasons and excuses for why I need to borrow it. I even wrote a speech by hand and delivered my soliloquy to the mirror until I'd almost convinced myself to lend out the lawnmower. It's just my dad and me in the kitchen when I finally go for it. My mom is upstairs somewhere, arguing with Brian about the shirt he wants to wear. I don't even want to know which one they're talking about. My dad is pouring a cup of coffee when I say, Could I ask a favor? His eyes perk open and glare at me. His pupils sag. He always looks like this if he's grouchy or tired. Not a good beginning to our conversation. I was wondering if I could borrow the lawnmower, I say. Just a couple of days a week? What were you planning on doing with it? He asks. Mowing lawns? Don't be a smart aleck, Sam. A cold feeling passes through me. I'm screwing this up already. Sorry, I just wanted to make a little extra money mowing lawns for some of our neighbors. My dad breathes heavily. I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing until he says, "All of our neighbors have their own lawn mowers." I know, but I try to say, "And the money you make mowing lawns won't cover the cost of replacing it if it breaks from overuse." Dad, I'm not going to break the lawnmower. Like you didn't break the can opener? My mouth drops open. That can opener was almost as old as me. And the television remote? I wince. Yes, I did an amazing job of spilling pasta gravy on the TV remote the day I begged him to let me eat dinner in the living room while I watched one of my favorite shows. It seeped into the buttons and soaked the inside so that the only button that worked was 0. But that was only one time. It could have happened to anybody. If he could only plug into my headphone jack and hear how much I want this. Because no matter how hard I try, I can't put how important this is into a coherent sentence. Sam, my dad says, his voice calm but not any less serious. I'd love to let you use the lawnmower to make some extra money. It's good to learn responsibility by earning your own money. But what would we do if the lawnmower broke? Cut the grass with a butter knife? I really wish he hadn't included that last line. Like I really thought that's what we do. Honestly, Sam, you should spend more time helping out around here, my dad says. How can you expect to do a good job for others if you can't do a good job for yourself? And it's those last words that tell me I have really lost this one. My dad is not going to give in, no matter how much I push. I run downstairs into our dusty basement and through the door to the laundry room. Next to the dryer, shoved into a corner between some pipes and the laundry table, is the lawnmower. It's a small one, but I know how to use it. I even know how to position it so that it gets all the tight corners next to fences and gardens. All I need to make this happen is permission, and permission isn't going to come. There's only one way I'm getting this lawnmower. It's not a good way. It's a really bad way, to be honest. Risky, too. I can't believe I'm even thinking about it. If I hadn't overheard Miss Rinaldi talking about music being cut next year, I wouldn't have even considered it. But I'm desperate. I need to do what's necessary. Brian has Little League baseball games every Saturday, and my mom will be gone with him all day. My dad's new job makes him work Saturdays. My parents won't even know it's gone. If I can't get permission to use the lawnmower, I'll just have to use it without permission. It's the only way. And that's the end of Chapter 8. I'm sorry, Chapter 7. Chapter 8 is the one that will be tomorrow, and I'm staring at the first page of it. It's popping in my brain. That's the end of Chapter 7. See you tomorrow.